Mars has two moons, Phobos and Deimos, and even though that's one more than we have here on Earth, they are a lot smaller than our moon. They do not even have enough mass to be round. Phobos is 22 kilometers across and has a surface area of over 1,500 kilometers square, which is a bit larger than the Faroe Islands, which are near the UK. But overall it is a very small surface area. And Deimos is even smaller than Phobos. It is 13 kilometers across and has a surface area of 495 kilometers square, which is a bit larger than Andorra, a tiny country in Europe. But despite the fact that they are so small, they appear as large objects from Mars. Here's how large they would appear if you were to stand on Mars compared to how large our moon appears to us on Earth. That is because these two moons are very close to Mars. Phobos is 9,380 kilometers away from Mars, which is like the distance of the most southern part of North America to the most northern part of North America. That is how much Phobos is away from Mars, which is very close. And the Deimos, the smaller moon, is at over 23,000 kilometers away from Mars, meaning it is more than double the distance of Phobos from Mars. These two moons have some interesting surface features and characteristics. So then, what would standing on these Martian moons be like? Let's start with Phobos, the bigger moon. Now, Phobos is not completely a solid chunk of rock, so there might be a reservoir of ice inside of it and lots of voids. As you would be landing on the surface, you would see a heavily cratered and overall deformed landscape that would be quite colorful. Upon setting the foot on the surface, it would be noticeable that it is not a very rock-solid surface, but rather the surface would feel more like you are standing on sand or gravel. And that's because the surface is covered with regolith, a very powdery material. So it would not feel as if you are standing on a large rock, rather more like a type of desert. While trying to walk, it would be a bit challenging, since you would feel more like you're floating rather than standing and walking normally. That is because the gravity of Phobos is 1,721 times weaker than Earth's gravity, so you would weigh 1,721 times less. Essentially, you would have a weight of a tennis ball or a couple of pennies on Phobos. This means that when you try to jump, you would go very high. So, if you wanted to walk through the entire Phobos in one direction and arrive at the same place, it would take you only a couple of hours going at normal walking speed. Although at moments you would not be able to see anything, since you would see the sun set a couple of times, since it is such a small place. During your exploration of Phobos, you would see a very sandy but cratered terrain. In the distance, they would seem like hills. Occasionally, you would come across a long canyon-like structures that would be around 30 meters deep. The color of the surface would also vary from gray and brown to red-like surface, but all around it would be very colorful. It is also very cold on Phobos. It gets from -4 Celsius to -112 Celsius, but you would not feel anything since you would be in a spacesuit. And perhaps the most magnificent thing would be looking up into the sky. Mars would dominate the whole view. It would feel like you are on a space station going around Mars, and going pretty fast, 2 kilometers per second, which is faster than a shot bullet. Some amazing views of Mars would be seen. The tallest mountain in the solar system, the giant canyons and craters could all be seen. You would be very near the red planet. It would feel as if you are about to crash into it at any moment. Now let's go to the smaller moon, Deimos. The overall experience would be somewhat similar to standing on Phobos, but there are many different things. As you would be landing, you would see a surface that is a lot less cratered and more pale. Setting a foot on the surface, it would again feel like you're standing on gravel or a type of sand. That regolith is also around 50 meters thick. It would not feel like a rock. taking a look in a distance, the surface would seem a lot flatter. There would not be as many craters and hill-like structures in the distance. Moving throughout the surface, you would feel even lighter than on Phobos, as you would weigh 3,270 times less than you would on Earth. So it would be more like floating. The exploration would also take a lot less hours, and you could see the day-night set a couple of times. The surface would be a lot less colorful, rough, and would contain less features than Phobos. You would also see Mars while looking into the sky, and it would be scattered throughout the whole sky. But it would seem a bit smaller, as it is more distant from Mars than Phobos. Overall, the feeling of standing on these two Martian moons would be quite an experience. Interestingly, there was the Phobos program in which two probes were sent to Phobos. They both kind of failed, but still, both moons are well explored. But if we get a lander or a manned mission, we would discover even many more useful things. We would find a way to make the use of materials that are on Phobos or Deimos. Now, there are some plans for the future missions, and maybe one day we will even hear news about a manned mission to Phobos or Deimos.